With the NFL offseason underway, the first order of business for many teams will be figuring out how to best set up their salary cap situations ahead of free agency and the draft. There are some big names that could end up on new teams in 2023, either by trade or by being cut. But first, thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. Are you looking for an easy way to eat well and save money? Cut back on expensive takeout and delivery and get started with HelloFresh today. You can customize select meals by swapping proteins or sides, or even adding proteins to your veggie dish. And now you can upgrade to organic chicken or organic ground beef. No matter your lifestyle or meal preferences, HelloFresh has recipes sure to please everyone at your table. From calorie smart or carb smart to family friendly or veggie, you'll always have something that even the pickiest of eaters will enjoy. We actually ended up making the cheesy chicken sausage and pepper sandos. It was super fast and it only took 15 minutes to make. We already had all the ingredients, so it was super easy to make and we didn't have to waste any time going to the grocery store. And even better, it tasted great.
Delicious. We're good.
Go to HelloFresh.com and use our code JDProduction65 to get 65% off plus free shipping. Again, go to HelloFresh.com and use our code JDProduction65 for 65% off plus free shipping. And again, thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video, and let's get right back to it. There have already been a few big cuts. Carson Wentz was the big one, and honestly, that was kind of a no-brainer for Washington. He had a $26.2 million cap hit if they kept him in 2023. You simply couldn't rely on the guy to perform when it mattered the most, and he seems to always have the fan base turned against him. The Commanders look to be rolling with Sam Howell going forward, so it's safe to say that it was about time to cut Wentz loose. The other quarterback that was already let go is Marcus Mariota. The Falcons end up saving $12 million against the cap for cutting him, and that allows Atlanta to make a move for another quarterback, or maybe use the money elsewhere and just roll with Desmond Ridder if that's the plan. The first player on this list is a guy whose organization has been on a bit of a downward spiral as of late, and he's sure to get the boot because of it. Ryan Tannehill has made more than $168 million to date, which is good for him because he's going to need to fall back on some of that money heading into 2023. Tannehill has actually been somewhat of a bargain for Tennessee since they traded for him in 2019. He's for sure had his moments in Tennessee. He's won road playoff games in New England and Baltimore, won the AFC South twice, and even earned the #1 seed in the AFC. The contract he signed ahead of the 2020 season has him accounting for $36 million against the salary cap, but they can save $18 million if they cut him with a post-June 1st designation. The Titans already cut tackle Taylor Lewan's non-guaranteed $14 million contract, which should only open up more money for spending in Tennessee. Lewan only played in 2 games before suffering a season-ending knee injury last year. It's a big loss, cutting a proven quarterback and a blindside protector in the same year. But by doing that, the Titans can open up some cap space to sign some actual weapons to pair with Malik Willis and build for the future. Tennessee did also go ahead and cut veteran wide receiver Robert Woods to save another $12 million against the cap. The Titans look to be entering a rebuild or retool, and this Tennessee team is going to look very different. Ezekiel Elliott has been the face of the Cowboys franchise since he was drafted 4th overall in the 2016 draft. He rushed for more than 4,000 yards in his first 3 seasons in Dallas before the Cowboys made the ridiculous, and maybe go as far to say reckless, decision to extend him for 6 years and $90 million 2 years before he was set to become a free agent. Zeke has averaged more than 1,000 yards rushing over the last 4 years, so some might say the contract was actually worth it, but he's clearly lost that burst that made him a star in the first place. It doesn't help his case that backup Tony Pollard has looked the part of the running back of the future over the last couple seasons, showing off the acceleration and burst that Zeke once flashed. Pollard did break his leg in the divisional round against the 49ers, which complicates the outlook of Dallas's running back room. With Elliott rushing for a career low of 876 yards in 2022, it makes sense for Dallas to save the $10.9 million it can by making Zeke a post-June 1st cut if they don't restructure his contract. Michael Thomas has been quite the enigma over the last few seasons, during which he's played in just 10 games. Before this 3-year run of misfortune though, Thomas had topped 1,100 yards receiving in each of his first 3 seasons and signed a 5-year $100 million extension ahead of the 2019 season. He definitely earned that money and then some in year 1 of that deal, going for more than 1,700 yards receiving and setting an NFL record with 144 receptions. It was also the first wide receiver to be named the Offensive Player of the Year since Jerry Rice in 1999. But Thomas went on to play in just 5 games in 2020, which was Drew Brees' last season in New Orleans. He then went on to miss all of 2021 with an ankle injury and then played in only 3 games in 2022. The Saints did go on to restructure Thomas's extension in January, making his base salary just over $1 million in 2023 and pushing his guaranteed money of $31 million into 2024 when the cap will be even higher. This makes Thomas easier to cut in 2023, especially with the emergence of Chris Olave, though the Saints will still be looking for a long-term solution at quarterback. Now, it doesn't take an aerospace engineering degree to understand that Jets receiver Corey Davis hasn't played up to that $37 million contract he signed ahead of 2021. The former top 5 pick hasn't even cleared 550 yards in a season in his time with the Jets. In fact, rookie wideout Garrett Wilson had more receiving yards in his Rookie of the Year season than Davis has had in his 2 years in New York. The Jets can cut Davis and save more than $10 million next season, and they'll need all the savings they can get if they hope to take on the contract of a superstar quarterback in the offseason. Chiefs defensive end Frank Clark is once again in the spotlight as a potential cap casualty. Clark had 13 sacks in his last year in Seattle before being traded to the Chiefs ahead of the 2019 season. Since then, he signed a 5-year, $105 million contract, but was topped out at just 8 sacks in the regular season. And he hadn't even had 1 sack in the postseason heading into 2022. He did have 1.5 sacks in the AFC Championship against the Bengals this January, but if the Chiefs don't restructure Clark like they did before last season, they'd be wise to cut him and take the $21 million savings instead. After 3 straight 10+ sack seasons in Oakland, Khalil Mack was traded to the Bears, where he went on to sign a 6-year, $141 million extension in 2018. It was the biggest contract ever signed by a defensive player at the time. Mack posted 12.5 sacks his first year in Chicago, but since then, his production has dipped. Mack was traded again ahead of the 2022 season, this time to the LA Chargers, who were led by Brandon Staley, who was the outside linebackers coach during Mack's first season in Chicago. Mack did play in all 17 games in 2022, including a 3-sack debut against the Raiders in Week 1. A restructuring is more likely, as Mack is due $27 million in 2023. He might not be the force he once was, but at the right price, he can definitely still be a key asset to the Chargers. Finally, a few players that may be traded soon. I honestly don't think DeAndre Hopkins fits well with the current state of the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are in the midst of a major transition, with quarterback Kyler Murray recovering from an ACL injury he suffered late last season. They also have a new head coach and GM, and they'd be wise to look towards the future. A trade just might be the way to go. Hopkins counts for more than $30 million against the cap in 2023, and while he isn't the star he once was, he was on pace for more than 1,300 yards if you extrapolate his production in 7 games last season. With the success of the AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill trades last season, the Cardinals can get a head start on their reboot by sending away Hopkins to a weapons-needy team and clear some cap room space in the process. Elsewhere in the NFC West, the Rams have also cornered themselves as a result of the short-term moves that won them a Super Bowl. Jalen Ramsey is once again in the center of trade talks. Rams COO Kevin Demoff didn't exactly go to bat for Ramsey when asked about his future. The star corner counts for $25 million against the cap, with a whopping $32 million hit in dead money if he was cut. So a trade would likely be the moves if there is one, especially if the Rams think 2022 struggles are a sign of things to come. Since cornerback is such a premium position, but one with so few surefire options in the draft year after year, the Rams would have plenty of suitors for one of the most reliable DBs in the league with championship pedigree. Lastly, there is the elephant in the room. And who knows, the room may still be dark at this point in the offseason. It seems all but guaranteed that Aaron Rodgers is done in Green Bay. Rodgers seems to be ready to take after Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford as the next veteran quarterback to chase after a ring with a new team. And I think Packers fans are about fed up with Rodgers' antics at this point. As it stands, A-Rod would count for about $31 million against the cap in 2023, which is honestly reasonable for a franchise quarterback these days. With the trade, the Packers can free up some space and gain draft capital or proven players to surround Jordan Love with the right pieces. Meanwhile, Rodgers can be the center of attention in a more populous market than Green Bay, Wisconsin.